Hitler's book Mein Kampf has 7% Jew hatred. The Quran has 11%. Let's not pretend it's to do with land, yeah? It's nothing to, let's not pretend the reason why these people hate the Jews, the reason why they're in every town and city across the West, calling for the death, the destruction of the only Jewish state. If we hear about Palestinians needing a state, they've got a state. 60% of Jordan's Palestinian. You've got a state. There's 21 Arab states, yeah? What you're calling for is not another Palestinian state. What you're calling for is the destruction of the only Jewish state.
Tommy Robinson, a very controversial figure in the UK and in the world in general, because of his views on Islam. Let's see what he has to say.
England means everything to me. The easy choice would be to stay silent. I look at my country, I've got 3 children. It's my duty as an Englishman to make sure that I hand down a safe and prosperous country to them. They can tell people I'm a figure of hate. They can tell people I'm an extremist. The public don't buy it anymore. Most places I go, I get loved. I get loved by the public because they've tried to make me a leper because I talk about issues that expose their failures. They have failed with mass migration. They failed with integration. They failed with assimilation. The entire British Parliament have pandered and cowered in the face of ideologies that wish to destroy this nation.
Tommy, good to see you.
Good to see you too, bro.
We've known each other for years.
Yep.
A lot of things have changed. I mean, you were one of the most hated men in this country. You were essentially almost a leper. You were pretty much untouchable. You were considered, I mean, the most hated man in the UK. Yet, many of the things that you said, many of the things that you warned about, not everything, there's some things we obviously disagree on. We have different opinions on many issues, but fundamentally, there's a few key things we agree upon, and one of them is that mass migration is bad. What is it that has changed over the last few years in the UK, say from the beginning of your activism in 2009, with the establishment of the EDL, up to now?
What's
changed, Tommy?
What's changed? I was born in Luton in 1982. When I was born, there was 1 mosque. There's now 45. Yeah? When I talked about issues I saw, yeah? Now the country...
When he was born, there was 1 mosque. Now there's 45. Ridiculous. It was Islamized like crazy.
Seen those issues. So when I started talking about them in 2009, these problems of mass migration, the problems of Islamization of our country, the general public hadn't recognised it the way I'd recognised it. But Luton is a blueprint for every town and city. Now people have watched, they've seen what's happening, and they can see it themselves. And the perception's changed because people see that, when you say most hated man in Britain, the media have called me that for years, yeah?
Sure.
But most places I go, I get loved. I get loved by the public. So it's always this perception, and they've been very successful because they've tried to make me a leper. They've tried to make me toxic because I talk about issues that expose their failures. They have failed with mass migration. They failed with integration. They failed with assimilation. They have, when I say they, I mean the entire British Parliament, have pandered and cowered in the face of ideologies that wish to destroy this nation. They got on their knees for the Marxists of Black Lives Matter. They cower in fear in the face of Islam. They dare not even speak about it. The cowardice shown, the destruction of this nation and where we're at currently now in Great Britain is because of their cowardice, yeah? And right now, the British public are awakening in a massive way, not just the British public. If you look at the voting patterns across Europe, remember when I started my activism, when we first met, and I started my activism, I think the Swedish Democrat Party were on 1.5%. They're now on 22 to 24%. Gert Wilders is now winning the election in the Netherlands. Yeah? He was banned from even entering this country, yeah?
Sure.
He was seen as an extremist. He was seen as a leper, like I was, yeah? Everything he said was true. The warnings he gave, he tried to give a voice to the Dutch people about putting them first, about the dangers that can come, especially since October 7th. The whole world has seen the radicalisation, the hatred on the streets of every Western nation. Coming out of the universities, look, the best universities in the world are now full of people calling for the gas of the Jews. It's insanity. Yeah. It's a level of insanity it's awakened the world, and essentially the people who have lied the whole way through this, which is all of them, which is the mainstream media, their trust has gone, the monopoly they had has gone. They can tell people I'm a figure of hate. They can tell people I'm an extremist. The public don't buy it anymore. Yeah? They do not buy it. Obviously, I was censored. They censored me for a reason, so people don't get to hear what I say. They get to tell people who I am. Well, thanks to Elon Musk for restoring my free speech, because they were given a 6-year reign of lying to the public about me. And now I've been given my voice back over the last 6 months, and the British public have listened to who I am again.
Have you changed your views on anything?
What a brave person Tommy Robinson is. You know, facing Islam right at its core. I mean, it's not the core at the moment in the UK, but it's about to be. It takes balls of steel to do something like this. He's the man that wants to save Britain. He's the man that wants to save the West. And he's amazing.
Is there anything we've sort of your views have evolved, or your views have changed, or you thought actually maybe I wasn't radical enough on this, or like I'd underestimated something or overestimated something?
I think if you look, if you dig up the first leaflet I ever made, which was in 2004 when I was 20, was it 20? And everything I say, I use it in my Oxford Union speech. Every word I say in that is exactly to the word that I say today. I've never changed. Yeah? What I said in that is that individual Muslims are not a problem. Extremists, radical jihadists are a problem. I said that whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted in the town of Luton. The Islamic community are given free reign. I talked about two-tier policing. Now the whole country talks about the two-tier policing. I spoke about Islamic jihad before people even knew what jihad was.
Yeah.
But only because I'm a product of the environment. I've grown up in Luton, where al-Mujahideen, who were only prescribed in 2013 or 14, they are 60% of the Muslims in British prisons for terrorism, are ex-members of that group. I went to school with them. Yeah? Their head office, Omar Bakri and Abu Hamza's head office, was in my town. Yeah, my town. So I grew up learning, had to learn who these groups were, had to understand the hatred, the venom, where it comes from, had to understand what was happening, the change in my town, the loss of freedom, the two-tier policing, the two-tier funding, the way the Islamic community becomes so powerful that as white English working class, we become irrelevant. They vote like a military fashion. They're block voting. The whole country's now seeing it.
We're seeing it because we've seen it with sectarian voting in a number of North England towns.
George Galloway.
Sure. And if there's a few other examples, I mean, there's an incredible poster in the East Midlands by Ahmed Yaqub saying, lend your voice to Gaza.
That's
literally his election.
I looked like a peaceful guy, this Yaqub.
That's his electoral program. And behind him is a dilapidated post-industrial warehouse building type where you can see the dilapidation of that town, but that guy's program is lend your voice to Gaza rather than let's restore this town to its former glory.
Rochdale, where George Galloway was elected, Rochdale had the biggest grooming scandal in our country, one of the biggest one in our country's history, of Muslim gangs raping hundreds, if not thousands, of young English girls. The election wasn't even mentioned. Yeah, everyone was talking about Gaza. Yeah, well, I'm being funny. This is about Britain and about putting British problems in our towns and cities. And whether I take satisfaction from it, you see all these people in here who have called us Islamophobic, who have shouted us down. They're now going to see the sectarianism. They're now going to understand it, because the people who are getting into politics now are Islamists, are pro-Hamas. Yeah, people are going to be sitting in this building are pro-Hamas. Not that they're not already, because many on the left already are. Yeah, pro-Hamas, but we're not talking about supporters of terrorism, supporters of jihad, hatred to Jews. When we talk about even what we've witnessed, and people always want to shy away from getting to the root cause of the problem. What is the problem? Is it to do with Israel? Is it to do with land? I think Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, has 7% Jew hatred. The Quran has 11%. Let's not pretend it's to do with land, yeah? It's nothing to, let's not pretend the reason why these people hate the Jews, the reason why they're in every town and city across the West, calling for the death, the destruction of the only Jewish state. If we hear about Palestinians needing a state, they've got a state. 60% of Jordan's Palestinian. You've got a state. There's 21 Arab states, yeah? What you're calling for is not another Palestinian state. What you're calling for is the destruction of the only Jewish state. The only Jewish state, yeah? You've got 55 Islamic countries. How come none of them are taking them in? We've got these politicians wanting to import all the Gazans into Great Britain, to put us at risk, to put us at more danger. Even if you just look at the statistics of the way they think in these regions, they're pro-Hamas. So what you're saying is the majority of them are pro-Hamas. You want to import people who are pro-Hamas into Great Britain. We've already got an out-of-control jihadist ideology controlling this capital city.
At the end of the day, they're not only pro-Hamas. They have a statement saying, first, the Saturday people, which are the Jews, and then the Sunday people, which are the Christians. We have to be aware of who's next, because after the Jews comes the Christians. And then you have to be awake. You have to be, fully alerted about these risks. If you just ignore it now, you'll regret it later.
Controlling this capital city, they've had free reign. The police have not policed them. They've not clamped down on them. They've clamped down on the people talking about them. Enoch Powell said it. They don't deal with the problem. They deal with the people talking about the problem. I'm easy to deal with. Stefan,
all we need to shut up Tommy Robinson is for the Islamists to be deported. And Tommy Robinson essentially shuts up, right? Is that the conclusion?
If people don't like me, if these lot don't like me, you created us. Your weakness, your cowardice to tackle the problem, as you've allowed jihadism and that ideology to grow into such a power in this country. Yeah? The demographical change, we currently have 40,000 British Muslims on the terror watch list. 40,000 now, yeah? As the demographic continues to grow, I looked at Manchester. Every 10 years in Manchester, the Muslim population doubles. Yeah? It doubles every 10 years. So it went from 25,000 to 50,000, 50,000 to 100,000. 100,000 is going to be 200,000. There's only 500,000 people there. You're a generation away from losing our country. That's what we are. Yeah?
Wow.
And everyone wants to sit back and watch it happen. I had this discussion with a Muslim yesterday. I said, I'm sorry, you're not going to intimidate us into silence. Yeah? This is, and we shouldn't be ashamed to say it, this is our country. It's our capital C. You've been invited in as guests, and you're absolutely taking liberties. You're taking liberties in towns and cities across our country. There already should have been a revolution in this country over the rape and prostitution, torture and murder of our daughters in every town and city. Not just the fact that the Islamic gangs done it, but the fact that they knew about it. The fact
covered
that
it up.
the police forces knew about it.
It was covered up.
They all let it happen. And they say it out loud. They let a generation of our daughters be kidnapped and raped.
I don't know how you can watch this and not say, this is a man who cares. You can hear the passion in his voice. You can hear he's hurting for the UK, for Britain. You can hear that he's been fighting for a very long time. You can see that he's tired, sick and tired of people not getting his point of view. And that's a warrior right there. You can hear the passion.
And they did not care. We are seen by them as cattle. Yeah? And they do not fear us. And when we fear them, that's tyranny. When they fear us, that's democracy. Yeah? And we need to, I said, we've sat back. We need to get organised. We need to unite this nation. All we're hearing about is the Muslim vote, the Muslim vote. Well, the Muslims make up 7% of the UK. Yeah? We are a majority. We have had enough of mass immigration. No one's asked us, did we want 1 million people imported last year? No one asked us if we want to continually go into war. No one asks us. That's not democracy. No one's asking us the key decisions. Yeah? The key decisions that are affecting us all. They want to walk us into World War III now. And there's so much that's gone wrong from COVID, from the vaccines, from these traitors, from the liars, from every point of it that the British public have watched. And if one thing, I had so many people who said to me, it was COVID, the lockdowns, the lies by Big Pharma, by politicians, that made me think differently about you. Because, and I always say, if they lied to us about Iraq, yeah, David Kelly was killed. He said 2 days before, I'll be found dead in a field, and he was found dead in a field. They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us in Syria. We were funding ISIS. America and Great Britain were funding ISIS. Yeah, they've lied to us about every conflict. They've lied to the country about me. They've purposely distorted who I am and what I represent. I'm not saying I want to get rid of every Muslim from the UK. Yeah? I've grown up in Luton Town. Some of the best people I've met growing up are Muslim. Yeah? That doesn't stop me from saying Islam and the encroachment of Sharia and the spread. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, do you know who's funding everything in this country? Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Iran. How have they got bases in our capital city? These fascist ideologies, the abuse of human rights in all these countries, they own half the capital city. Our country are pandering to them. Our politicians are pandering to them. They've bought our capital city. They've bought our politicians through their money. And the British public are fed up of it. So I just, and unfortunately, due to censorship, due to all these issues, everyone's scared to say it. And they should be scared to say it, because we live in a totalitarian state. You lose a job, you get depersoned. They incite people against you and violence against you. We have well-funded, far-left organisations whose job it is to track down anyone that speaks out.
Sure.
That's not freedom. We don't have freedom and democracy in this country. Trust me.
I was watching an old show of yours where you were sitting in the audience, and one of the points you made is saying, you know, I get a lot of death threats. And one of the panelists said, oh, Tommy, if only you were a nice person. Do you remember that?
She said, I don't get death threats because I'm a nice person. I said, try and talk about Islam, you'll get death threats. 6 years later, she comes out and tries to talk about Islam, and then she sits on TV crying because she's had a death threat. Yeah? But the death threats against my children were justified, against my wife was justified, my mum. That's all justified because I'm not a bad person. But then she sits there as though she's the voice. And this is what we've seen. The thing is, these interviews are not going to age well for any of them. Yeah? Jeremy Paxman looks like a fool. Okay? Andrew Neil looks like a fool. Every show I went on, as Piers Morgan, fool. Yeah?
I actually watched the one with Piers Morgan recently with you, and it's incredible to see how a few years have changed. You know, what you were saying then, which appeared obviously to people who were living in very sheltered areas, because this is, I think, a lot of the problem around.
Piers Morgan is trying to walk on eggshells. He will ride whatever topic is trendy, but he will do whatever it takes to make as much money off of this conflict as possible. And this is just a speculation. I'm not saying anything, but that's what it seems like.
around you was around the fact that you were exposed to things that essentially the heart of London was completely shielded from. The demographic change it was really affecting and impacting the working class. It was affecting children who were going to working class schools. It wasn't upper middle class parents whose girls are being groomed by grooming gangs. It was the working class who seemed to have really no voice, nobody to make themselves heard, and they were discounted based on their accents. And that really feels like that's changed. Who are some of the individuals that would have not touched you beforehand, or not even sort of dared to speak with you or be seen with you, that have since come out and been willing to interact with you and to be publicly seen with you?
So since the start of the English Defence League, many influential people have met with me. Yeah, I'm not going to put them in a position, right?
Sure.
They've met with me because they were desperate. Every time we went onto the streets and done a demonstration, it was a cry for help. Every time, like that Piers Morgan interview, we just had 20 children blown up in Manchester. Yeah. If we look at the Manchester terrorist attack, the police the next day went to the Didsbury Mosque, and the Didsbury Mosque put a banner outside saying, "We love Manchester." And the police took all their pictures outside Didsbury Mosque. I went into Didsbury Mosque, yeah? I got a leaflet. Do you know what the leaflet said? "The music made me do it." This is the mosque that Salman Abedi, who could recite the Quran without looking at it, who was invited into our country. His dad was a terrorist, yeah? They were invited into our country and given safety. He went and blew up children at a concert. The music made me do it. So I read this leaflet, and the leaflet talked about how music is satanic. Yeah, it painted people like Ariana Grande, who is what he went and blew up. So this leaflet's in there. I looked at the preachers that have been there, Abdul Rahim Green, Quick, people who say there must be death to people who leave Islam, people who say kill homosexuals. These were the preachers in that mosque. And then I saw Andy Burnham come out, who's the mayor of Manchester. He come out and said, and we're going to stand against this, fight against this. So I looked at him. He shares a platform with Cage. Cage are an extremist they're an extremist, Islamist, radical organisation. And the mayor, who says he's going to combat it, shares a platform with them. Yeah, cheers, bro. The police who are there taking pictures, cosy pictures with the imams at the mosque that has been used to radicalise the person to go and blow up the centre. The cowardice in no one since Winston Churchill or William Gladstone, not one single person in that building has spoke about Islam. Bearing in mind how many jihad attacks we've had, we're not even allowed to ask the question. You're not even allowed to look at Islamic scripture to understand who Muhammad was. It's a conversation that's not allowed to be had, and we have to have it.
I'll stop the video right here. I'll attach the full video down in the description so you can watch it and actually show some support to ViceGuard24. I don't want to take away their views, but great video and great perspective of Tommy. Tommy is a very hated person by the media. They don't like the generalization that he makes. I don't think he generalizes. He talks about a hateful ideology called Islam, which has a lot of vile things in it. In the teaching, in the main teaching, in the Quran, not even mentioning the hadiths, in the Quran itself. This video was filmed before he got out of prison, but it's amazing to see him out. It's amazing to see him uncensored, and hopefully we can see more great things from Tommy Robinson. If you want to read a great book, it's called Muhammad's Quran by Peter McLaughlin and Tommy Robinson. You can DM me on Instagram and I'll send you the link to order it. I'm not making any money off of it. I just have the website to get this from. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me financially, you can do so through Buy Me Coffee or Patreon down in the links below. And don't forget to subscribe. Let's grow this channel together. See you. Bye-bye.